If Tyronn Lue has played the role in Chris Paul being sent home, I'm going to criticize him too. And I love Ty Lue. But let me be very, very clear. Chris Paul does not deserve that. You go a flight home. You go back to Los Angeles. You call him into the office. You work out a buyout. You let him part ways with his dignity and you call it a day. After 21 freaking years, you don't do that to him. This is Chris Paul. This is CP3. And Lawrence Frank is already on the record talking about we're not blaming him. You lost 5 straight. You lost 5 straight.
Stephen A. Smith goes off on the Clippers for disrespecting Chris Paul. Check out what he had to say, and then I'll come back with my comments.
It's a story that happened overnight, wee hours of the morning. Chris Paul, the one stellar point guard in the NBA, who's most certainly going to the Hall of Fame one day, was sent home by the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, over the last few hours, reports have come down that Chris Paul was not even on speaking terms with head coach Ty Lue. In the interest of full disclosure, I know both. I have spoken to neither as of yet, but I will.
Yeah, it'd have been good if you chopped it up with them before putting out this video, but I get it. You're on a time crunch. You got to put out this content and react to the news, but I know a lot of people are trying to get Ty Lue some leeway, like he's real respected, so there had to be a reason why he hasn't been communicating with Chris Paul, and we know how Chris Paul is. He's a certain way. He's going to hold people accountable. That's really the reports are coming out like that's his personality. He's not for everybody. Was he challenging James Harden? Was he challenging Kawhi Leonard and the organization to get it right? They've been struggling right now. They've been playing a little bit better. Kawhi's been putting up some great numbers the last few games, but it's not resulting into wins. So the Clippers organization trending right now, going viral, some controversies with Steve Ballmer and Kawhi Leonard and some alleged money touching hands, but it's a bad look. You don't let go of players like Chris Paul, especially for someone that kind of made his name with the Clippers many years ago during the Lob City era with DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin. They didn't win a championship, but they kept the Clippers organization afloat during those days. But so again, man, Steve Ballmer, Lawrence Frank, Ty Lue, it's not a good look for your organization.
But I think to send him home is so damn disrespectful that I'm still looking at the organization, which is the Clippers, which, by the way, deserves to be vilified. This is from Lawrence Frank, Clippers president of basketball operations. We are parting ways with Chris Paul, and he will no longer be with the team. We will work with him on the next step of his career. Chris is a legendary Clipper who has had a historic career. I want to make one thing very clear. No one is blaming Chris for our underperformance. I accept responsibility for the record we have right now. There are a lot of reasons why we've struggled. We're grateful for the impact Chris has made on the franchise. Oh, shut the hell up. I don't want to hear that from Lawrence Frank.
Yeah, I don't get it. So he's with the team currently, but you just sent him home. So if he's not the reason why the Clippers are doing bad, he barely plays. And when he does play, you know, he's doing what a 40-year-old is going to do that's kind of on a decline. He's just going to initiate the offense, make a couple shots, and that's it. So he's really not at fault based off what Lawrence Frank is saying. So it has to be something else. What's really the issue going on with Chris Paul and the Clippers?
He's always got a great quote to give. Willing to accept responsibility on paper, but in real life, it's always somebody else that's paying the price. Now, it appears that he's not the culprit here. It would probably be he's running basketball operations. He's siding with his coach. We don't know what role Tyronn Lue has played in all of this. If Tyronn Lue has played a role in Chris Paul being sent home, I'm going to criticize him too. And I love Ty Lue. But let me be very, very clear. Chris Paul does not deserve that. You go a flight home. You go back to Los Angeles. You call him into the office. You work out a buyout. You let him part ways with his dignity and you call it a day. After 21 freaking years, you don't do that to him. This is Chris Paul. This is CP3. And Lawrence Frank is already on the record talking about we're not blaming him. You lost 5 straight. You lost 5 straight.
Yeah, so it looked like Chris Paul, he found out when he was on the road in Atlanta or whatever the case may be. So the way that he found out, the way that it went down, that was the most disrespectful part. Why not again, like Stephen A. Smith said, call him in the office. Let's agree to a buyout. Things aren't going good with the organization as a whole, so we don't really want to put you through this. This is going to be your last season in the NBA, and you should go out better. My opinion, Chris Paul should have tried to stay with the Spurs. I know they were moving on with the younger guys, draft picks. They drafted Harper. They got a lot of guards on that team, but I'm sure they could have found some room on the bench for Chris Paul. Maybe try to get him in a semi-coaching role, a players type coach. But again, just a bad look overall for the Clippers franchise. They've been trending in a bad direction with the controversies with Kawhi Leonard and Steve Ballmer. And now this terrible way to end 2025 if you're the Clippers.
You see that tweet right there that Chris Paul just put out in the middle of the night. Just found out I'm being sent home. This is Chris Paul, the former president of the Players Association. 21st season, 12-time All-Star, 11-time All-NBA selection, member of the 75th anniversary team, former Rookie of the Year, 6-time steals leader, twice as many as any player in NBA history, 5-time assist leader, 2-time Olympic gold medalist. That Chris Paul.
I think that was the part that really hurt the most. Like, damn, y'all know this my last season. I'm pretty much out the door. So for y'all to do me like this, pretty much the last few months of the season, why not call me into the office? Why not let me know beforehand back when I wanted to sign with the team originally? Like, you know what? We may have different plans. I know you want to end your career in LA, where you kind of made your career in LA, but at the same time, we're in a different direction. We got a lot going on. We got James Harden, Kawhi, and just everything with the organization. So why I agreed to sign Chris Paul initially, it didn't really make sense. And now it ending this way, he has all the accolades. He's a great professional. You don't really hear too much issues. Yeah, personality-wise, people may not rock with him, but as far as being a professional, people can't say anything negative about Chris Paul.
Like he's some petulant kid that was out in the street acting up, and that's how you treat him? You can't treat him any better than that? And I'll talk to Ty Lue at some point about whatever role he may have played in it, and I'll go from there. But as it pertains to Lawrence Frank, let me start in there right now. Since you're the president of basketball operation, you're the boss. Chris Paul, by the way, just so y'all know, 12,552 career assists, ranked second all-time to John Stockton. 2,728 career steals, ranked second all-time to John Stockton. 16.8 points. His 9.2 assists per game, ranked sixth all-time. His 2 steals per game, tied for 10th all-time based on a minimum of 750 games. A career 20.8 assist average in 149 postseason games over 15 seasons. In a one lone NBA Finals he participated in and lost, he averaged 21.8 points on 55% shooting, 52% from three with 8.2 assists. That Chris Paul.
Again, great individual accolades for Chris Paul. Only thing that's missing is that championship ring. To have a 21-year career like Chris Paul and not win a championship when you had some solid teams in LA and with the Rockets, it just sucks that he wasn't able to put together and win that championship. I guarantee if he won a championship, especially with the Clippers back in the day, this doesn't end this way. It'll be a lot more respectful. Maybe they reach out to him, bring him into the office, and work on a deal to kind of get him out of LA. But the way that it happened now, again, I think it had a lot to do with him not winning a championship, not holding up the end of his bargain as far as with the Clippers originally. But either way, championship or not, you got to respect someone like a Chris Paul, and you can't do him that way. The Clippers dropped the ball. Steve Ballmer, you got some questions to answer.
And you're telling me you're going to send him home. And who's sending him home? Let's talk about that for a second here. Because, see, I got a problem with the Clippers. Now, me personally, I like Steve Ballmer. I do. I like him as a person. I like his enthusiasm. I think he's good for the game. But have we seen what the Clippers have done? First of all, you Lawrence Frank, he was brought there as an assistant coach under Doc Rivers. How is it that you go from an assistant coach to Doc Rivers, who, by the way, was running basketball operations and was the head coach of the Clippers, to all of a sudden being put over Doc Rivers as the head of basketball operations. And ultimately, Doc Rivers is gone. You talk about something, I don't know about, at the very least, we could say that smells, at the very least. 2019, you want Kawhi Leonard so bad. I understand that. Kawhi Leonard blackmails you because we know that he could go to the Lakers. And if you want him to come to you instead of the Lakers, guess what? Go get Paul George. So you go get Paul George. They gave up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Danilo Gallinari, 5 first-round picks, and 2 swaps for Paul George.
Now, to be fair, Shai Gilgeous wasn't the SGA he is now. Back then, he was a promising player, but he wasn't the SGA that's running the NBA right now. And as far as Danilo Gallinari, he's a part of every trade and those draft picks. Now, 5 first rounds for Paul George in 2018, 2019? Maybe you cut that in half. You try to keep SGA and try to make a workaround trade. But either way, SGA wasn't the SGA now. But that's a lot to give up for a Paul George that still has some injuries. And then he had that crazy leg injury. So Paul George has always been riddled with injuries. And it just shows that the Clippers, they're not being ran right. To make that trade, to capitulate to Kawhi Leonard, do what he says, or if you don't sign Paul George or make a trade for him, I'm going to go to the Lakers. In hindsight, it probably would have been best for the organization if Kawhi never showed up to the Clippers. I get it. He was a 2-time champion, just won a championship with Toronto, so he was trending. Teams wanted him, but again, it's just hard to have that crystal ball on the spot when you're trying to make some moves for the organization. But the Clippers, they're not being ran right, and they're starting to get exposed.
That sound like good business to y'all? That sound like a great basketball decision? Kawhi Leonard, who was in Toronto, albeit a champion, who only played 60 games that year. Kawhi Leonard, whose nickname is Mr. Load Management. That sound like a good deal for y'all? Where's the player evaluation? Where's the player development department? Did somebody not see that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was going to be that dude? If you're Kawhi Leonard, do you know how much success you would have had you been playing with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the Clippers had been able to keep those damn 5 picks?
Yeah, if it was Kawhi Leonard and SGA and those 5 first-round picks, we're looking at a different Clippers team right now. But it was probably best for SGA to get traded. He wouldn't have been able to grow with Kawhi Leonard on that team. He had to been the main player with OKC. That was the only way he was going to elevate to the next level. Same thing with James Harden when he went to the Rockets. Yeah, he was a decent role player with OKC, a 6-man, but he wouldn't have been able to grow like he did if he didn't go to the Rockets. So I get it from SGA's standpoint, like it worked out for the best, but it did hurt the Clippers in the long run. Kawhi Leonard definitely helped mess up the Clippers.
But that's not what happened. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George together. 5 straight years. Never reached an NBA Finals. Kawhi Leonard, multiple seasons derailed by injuries. 2021, ACL tear. 2023, meniscus issue. 2024, knee inflammation issue. That was all under Lawrence Frank's stewardship. How about the James Harden trade in October of 2023? The Clippers traded multiple players plus 4 picks / swaps to the 76ers for James Harden, PJ Tucker, and some dude named Philippe Petrusev. Saved the Sixers a boatload of cap space. What about the Paul George fiasco? Telling you on the record he wanted to stay. But that talks began with a disrespectful first offer. So what does he do? He leaves for the Sixers in 2024. No problem there, but you got no compensation.
Yeah, as far as Paul George leaving, that was great for the franchise, but maybe this is a part of the rebuild. But if you're going to let go of Chris Paul or send him home and then the Paul George leaving, now what's going to happen with Kawhi Leonard? He's the last person left. And James Harden. You got to get rid of those players if you're the Clippers. So if you're going to start the rebuild, again, with Paul George going ahead and leaving, giving him a disrespectful contract offer, okay, I'm cool with that. But with the Chris Paul situation, not a good look. People are going to point to James Harden and Kawhi Leonard. They're not able to get it done. Yeah, Kawhi got it done with other teams, but he's been a no-show with the Clippers, and he's been injury-riddled. Every other game, you're looking at Kawhi like, hopefully he can last a week or two without having a minor setback. So, yeah, the Clippers, you messed up. It's time to rebuild, get rid of Kawhi, get rid of James Harden. Hopefully this is a domino effect. Either way, it's still a bad look the way that you did Chris Paul. Hopefully, again, this is a domino effect that the Clippers are going to start to rebuild. But this is a bad way to end 2025. The Clippers, they're getting exposed. And I don't blame Stephen A. Smith for going off on the Clippers. Somebody got to keep it real. The Clippers, man, they got a lot of work to do. They're looking terrible right now.